Favorite wrestler of all time?
Sting.
Tim?
Sting.
Right, I heard that, but Tim, do you have a favorite wrestler of all
And now,
time?
see, so I haven't watched it in a long time, so I'd have to go back to back in the day. I mean, I don't know. I always enjoyed Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant back in the day.
I like Ricky Steamboat.
Most overrated.
No, he's not over. Because he had
I also liked Randy Macho Man Savage because Elizabeth was always an attraction.
There you go.
Steamboat always came out there with his wife and his kid. That was the coolest thing. He had a white wife too, and I thought that was like, all right, yeah.
Who did?
Steamboat. And I met him. And I was like, I don't really get starstruck or anything. So I got to meet Tiger Woods when I was 17, and my mom was more excited about meeting him. And I was like, just another person. And I go meet Ricky Steamboat. I'm like, oh, wow. Hey, man.
Who won that? What people believe is one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time at WrestleMania 3 between Steamboat and Macho Man. Who won that?
Steamboat
did. Interesting. If I had to answer that, I don't know. I'd probably say the guy behind me, but I don't really think that that's true. I would probably say Ultimate Warrior was probably my favorite guy growing up. Just the fact that like he wasn't involved that much, and you always kind of had that like, where is he? Is he coming back? Kind of thing. And I don't think it was actually intentional at that time, but it kind of has the same effect to Mr. Brock Lesnar of today, where he only kind of competes every once in a while, which leads me to my next question. There is a part in Anomaly, How to Finally Stand Up from the Crowd, a story about an individual who owns an escape room, and it seems like the name of the person is two wrestling names put together. It seems like the name is actually Brock Lesnar and Hulk Hogan, where it appears that the person in the story is actually you, Xerxes Nabong. Is there truth to that?
That is true, absolutely. So at the time I gave you that quote, I had some conflicts with some obligations I had in which I could not have shared my name for, respect to who I was working with at the time.
WWE owned your rights.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, I'm going to give you a quote. You just can't use my name. And he did. And actually I did end up sharing that post that you had, and that had like my biggest viewership on LinkedIn. So I guess people found that interesting that I used the name Brock Hogan in your book. You used Brock Hogan as me in your book.
How many views?
I think like 155,000.
Oh, wow. That's great. So allegedly in a upcoming book, they might use your real name. Is that?
I know you're working on a second book, and we haven't had an interview yet, unless you're taking the snippets of this conversation to put in that book.
Guess we'll find out.
Are there pictures?
I mean, we might figure out a way to put a video in the book of that terrible promo from about 13 minutes ago, but that's a different story. Tim?
What podcast are you listening to right now? You mentioned you're going to start yours. What do you listen to? Where are you getting your inspiration from?
There's a guy, I think his name is Roger Whitney. He runs the Retirement Answer Man. I haven't actually listened to many podcasts in the last several months, to be perfectly honest. I had this idea of starting a podcast. It's going to be called the Money Mats Podcast with Xerxes. I had this idea of doing a podcast about a year and a half ago. So I would go to the gym instead of listening to music. I'd listen to financial podcasts, and I would just write down information on best practices to implement in my business, and which I did. And then I was inspired through that to start a podcast. And of course, through we did an office redo. We ended up buying a building, so we were in the midst of doing a new office. We rebranded the firm. I moved, and then actually I joined this networking group out here where a young lady talked about a podcast, and it just kind of rejuvenated me and said, you know what? I have this podcast that I had an outline of things that I was going to talk about. I need to actually do this podcast. So I'm the type of person where like I'll have an idea and I'll sit on the idea, and then just one day my gut will say, go out there and do it. And so that's what happened.
Is sitting on that idea for too long a bad idea? Because I mean, I'm probably the opposite. It's like I have this idea, let's go do it.
For me, I do things with my gut, and I look back at the business decisions that I've made in the past, and maybe the client relationships I've taken on that didn't work out. And, I always look back at there was a gut feeling where something didn't feel right. It just never has worked out the way it should have.
Got it. So you have a thing in your mind of something that you want to do, but when your gut gets to it, that's when you decide to actually do it.
Yeah, like when I wanted to open an escape room, I did the escape room experience in Washington, D.C. I was like, this would be a great idea. And I got to the point where like I could not sleep at night. Like I would be laying in bed, running numbers in my head, thinking of opportunities and marketing initiatives. I said, well, if I don't open this escape room, someone else's. That was my gut feeling to do so. You know, when I opened that cafe and I invested the money, when I wrote that check into it, I go, kind of did this. You know, it wasn't the best feeling. And, you know, you look back and sure, I've shared the failure and the experience that brought me to a young lady to help me open this escape room, which I look back and go, this is the best decision I made. But at that time, I kind of go, you know, could have gone about in different ways.
I think we're the same. That's similar then to me. Xerxes, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
No, I you know, you brought up a promo, a terrible promo from like 5 years ago, and that just derailed me. I'm gonna take that experience and I'm gonna be more passionate about it. I'm gonna carry this belt everywhere I go, and I'm not gonna carry the belt everywhere I go. But what I'm gonna continue to do is to help other people as much as possible to get inspiration whenever I can and steer them in the direction that, if not the direction I want them to go, at least steer them in a direction that can help them.
I think the telling story from the promo is that once it's on the internet, it's always on the internet. So be careful what you post.
My TikTok videos exist out there, so I know what stupidity exists out there.
What's your TikTok handle?
First and last name, Xerxes Nabong.
There you go.
There you go. Xerxes, appreciate you being here with us today. It's been an absolutely fascinating show. If there's one piece of advice that I would give you for the next few weeks, it's to practice the promo. Until next time, we'll see you guys next Thursday. That's been it for us. Peace and pancakes, y'all. You like how I'd give you a second to say anything else there? That was intentional.